I just wanted to give a little bit of a disclaimer before I get into the video. I've been sick for like a week and a half, so if I sound a little off in the video, that's why. I've been wanting to make this for quite a long time. I just recently got around to doing it. It took quite a long time to put together all these pictures that I did and set everything up the way that I wanted it. So if you watch this video and like it, I appreciate it if you share it through other Facebook groups or Mustang websites or anything like that for the people watching this that may not be a part of my regular friends group, family, or people that are on my Facebook friends list as it stands now. The journey with this Cobra started back in 2007. I wanted to give everyone a rundown on how the car was when I got it, everything I had done to it, ultimately why I sold it, and what made it so special and unique. The Cobra started its life as a regular production 94 Cobra, but found its way into the hands of the current Ford powertrain engineer manager, Craig Barker, and it became a test bed to swap a 95 Cobra drivetrain into it. They wanted to take all the comforts of the 94 Cobra with the AC radio and sound deadening that was not found in the 95R and combine that with the power of the 351 Windsor that came in the 1995 Cobra R. The engine, transmission, suspension, custom ECU, prototype Cobra R hood, and many other parts were swapped over into the 94 Cobra. After the drivetrain swap was complete on the Cobra, it eventually found its way down to Florida into the hands of Jimmy, who I bought the car from. I've stayed in contact with him over the years ever since I bought the car to this day. The time came for Jimmy to part with the car and my time for it to begin. I booked a one-way ticket from Maine to Florida, bought the car from Jimmy, drove it back home in a period of 2 days. When I got the Cobra home at that time, it had a set of AFR 185 heads, a Crowler cam, Cobra and lower intake. I figured that would keep me content for a while, but after a few trips to the drag strip, that soon changed. It was originally running high 13s to low 14s, and I had a goal to run mid to low 12s naturally aspirated, and I knew I could not get that done without making some changes to the car. I knew it needed to be changed the most of all was the suspension. The Cobra had enough power from the torquey 351 to hit my goals, but these suspension changes would also be part of what led to the downfall of the car and eventually why I sold it. The factory Cobra R shocks and struts were removed and replaced with strange 10-way adjustables, Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates, and I also picked up a pair of Weld racing wheels and Mickey Thompson drag radials. As the time started to improve along with my driving, I continued to try to find ways to give me any edge that I could find. At this point, I decided to remove the AC unit from the car and add a Mitsubishi aluminum radiator and install a rear seat delete. Shortly after this, I started down the road of wanting to pull more power out of the 351. I figured the Cobra intake could be a bottleneck, so I swapped it out for a Trickflow R upper and lower intake, and I paired that with a Fox body throttle body conversion with an AccuFab throttle body and a 95mm mass air meter. While the times on the Cobra were improving, traction still proved to be an issue due to the mass amounts of torque from the 351, so I went to the next step of tires and went with a full set of slicks from Mickey Thompson. Also to go along with the weight reduction of the AC unit, I bought an aftermarket tubular K-member from Team Z and a set of their A-arms. I also needed a bump steer kit to properly line the front end due to it throwing the geometry off so much. This car proved to be quite fun in this configuration for quite a while, but I started to get severe clutch slip from the repeated trips to the track. I fixed this short-term problem with a center force dual friction clutch, which held up great for the rest of my time with the Cobra, despite some of the severe track abuse to come. I ended up moving not long after this. Once in the new place, this is where the final and most extensive round of mods would begin, which would also be the final nail in the coffin for my time with the car. Still reluctant to add any boost or nitrous, I wanted to get as much power as possible naturally aspirated. This led to another upper and lower intake swap to the Edelbrock Victor EFI, long tubes from AccuFab, and a custom grind camshaft from Ed Curtis. Also from Ed Curtis was a set of custom ported trick flow high pour HR cylinder heads. During this time, while waiting for parts to come, I dropped the rear end out of the car to have it rebuilt and have a set of 410 gears installed. Also a set of strange 31 spline axles and a 31 spline limited slip differential. This was also paired with a pair of Team Z upper and lower adjustable control arms and spherical solid rear bushings. The car sat on jack stands for quite a long time as I worked on the rear end upgrades and reinstalling everything, along with a massive headache of installing the long tube headers, which involved the help of a few friends, and jacking up the engine on one side to install them from the bottom. In time, the rear end was done, and once again sitting on all fours, and the engine assembly with the new heads began. Steady progress eventually led to the project being finished, along with my time with the car. Despite unforeseen circumstances, I was never able to get dyno numbers in this final mod configuration on the car, despite making attempts to get back to the dyno. The car ended up sitting a lot. The times I did drive it made me wish I wasn't. The rear end upgrades from Team Z were amazing for the drag strip, but not so much for the street. That plus the strange 10-way adjustable shocks and struts made for a very harsh, uncomfortable, and noisy ride. I started to resent the car despite all the money, time, and effort I put into it. At this point, I decided to move on from the car as I wanted to buy a house, and I thought at that time getting rid of the Cobra would be the best thing for me. I put it up for sale at a price which I thought was a bit high. Even though it was for sale, deep down inside I really didn't want to sell it. It sat for a long time without much interest at all, until one day in late 2016 I received a personal message from someone on Corral.net. Through numerous emails and a few phone conversations, he made me a deal that was too good to pass up. After a bunch of emails back and forth, in October of 2016, the Cobra was loaded onto a transport trailer and shipped to Texas. This is the last photo I took of the Cobra next to my 2016 WRX. Despite some of the frustrations over the years with the car, it proved to be a lot of fun. While it was never a full Cobra R, many still would have locked it away in a time capsule. I, on the other hand, decided to enjoy the car, and I had a lot of fun doing it. As far as ever reaching my track goals, I in fact did. In 2009, I ran a best of 12.53 at 108. It still had a lot left in it because I never got the suspension fully dialed in, and this track time was run on the old AFR engine combination. As the car was when it was sold with the trick flow heads, it had never received a quarter-mile time or a dyno number. Also on the old setup, it pulled a best of 344 horsepower at the wheels and 347 foot-pounds of torque. I can only imagine what the final combination would have done once tuned and with a set of skinnies on the front. There were a ton of other mods over time on this car, a lot that I did not cover in the video, a lot of issues and a lot of troubleshooting, but I've tried to condense this down as much as possible to the most relevant information regarding the car to best put into this video. While the Cobra is gone, it is definitely not forgotten. It carved out a very big chunk of my overall experience with Mustangs over the years. During my time with the car, and also one of the highlights while I owned it, I was able to get it into the showcase feature section of 5.0 Mustang magazine. And before I bought the car, Jimmy had a full feature done on it. I'll let these pictures scroll through and you can pause it so you can read the full feature because I'm not going to keep it up for the entire length to read all of it. Also, while Jimmy still owned the car, I had many parts on it that were not on it when I bought it. It did have a Vortex supercharger on it, a Polk audio system, and a few other things which were taken off the car and sold before I ever bought it. As you read through the magazine article, you'll see some of the things that I never mentioned before in the video because they weren't present on the car when I did in fact buy it. I also want to include a few other things in the video. This is a little write-up that Jimmy did about the car, explaining some of the stuff that was done to it while he had it. And I'm also including a bunch of memos, internal emails, or maybe internal memos that were passed around Ford during the production of the 1995 Cobra R. This is a lot of stuff that's never been seen by people before. I have a packet that's about 2.5, 3 inches thick of all kinds of documents and production issues and deadlines and all kinds of stuff they were trying to meet while meeting the deadline for the 1995 R for production. Really, really interesting stuff in here, and this is just a very small piece of everything included in that packet that I have, but I just wanted to share some of that stuff, and even some of the stuff is from John Claudia himself, and any of you that are fans of Mustangs, you most likely know who John Claudia is. After I sold the Cobra back in 2016, I had taken a break from Mustangs, as my time with that car brought a lot of ups and downs, but I wouldn't have changed anything with it. It was a good, fun overall experience, and I definitely wouldn't change anything about it. Since 2016, things have changed a little bit. As of last year, 2018, I've wanted to get back into another Mustang. I'm just kind of treading water until that time comes. It's going to be about 2021 early on, and I'll be able to jump back into the Mustang that I'm currently looking at buying, at least the model year of it. But like I said before, share this video around. It's a really cool car. It has a really cool story to it. So it would be nice if as many people can see it as possible. Share this on other Mustang forums, Facebook pages, stuff like that. I hope you really enjoyed the video and my story, and thanks for watching, and until next time.